Hello, students, and welcome to our April 8th lesson in algebra. We're going to start with our do now, where we have an interesting question about reframing. We've done reframing before, but we're doing it a little bit differently today. Our objective today will be to review the factoring that we've been doing. Our essential question is, am I fluent in factoring with a GCF, with a difference of squares, and with those trinomials, especially if I have to factor out a greatest common factor first. Our assignment will be to complete the do now. We have 2 pages of work to do today and an exit ticket. If you're a distance learner, you need to submit those photographs on Teams. And if you are in person, show me your work. I'll walk around the room and I'll see what you're doing and give you credit. Tomorrow is our first quiz in this unit, so please study for that. And important, marking period 3 is closed. So we'll get back to our exit ticket in a minute, but let's start with this reframing exercise. We're going to sort the statements into these 2 boxes, and if you want, you can add your own. And the statements, what's wrong with me? Maybe I should try something different. I know if I keep trying, I'll see something new. I'm lazy. This must be easy for most people, or I don't have to let mistakes frustrate me. So sort those into whichever box you think they belong in and add your own. Remember, reframing keeps you positive. So we're going to review what we've been doing. We're going to work each on our own today. Maybe in class, some of you will work together. We'll see how that works out. But we're going to start with determining the greatest common factor. So number 1, I have a 21 and a 3, an x and a y. No variable can come out, but the 3 can come out. 21 divided by 3 is 7. We have that x minus 15 divided by 3, 5y. Number 2, I can pull out a c, and I can also pull out a 2. So 2c, 14c squared divided by 2c is 7c. 2c divided by 2c is 1. So try 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then come back to the video and let's see how you did. So I hope that you tried those on your own. Number 3 is prime. So you were not able to get a greatest common factor out of number 3. Number 4, we have 8 and negative 22. 22 is not a multiple of 4. So we're going to pull out a 2. We can pull out x to the 3rd power and y to the 4th power. So, and that leaves us with 4. Remember, when we divide, we subtract exponents. So the x goes away and the y goes away. Minus 22 divided by 2, 11, x, 5 minus 3. Oops, I wrote y, I meant to write x. Okay, x, 5 minus 3 is 2, and y, 6 minus 4 is 2. And that's your final answer. Number 5, we have 10a squared b squared plus 9ab squared minus a squared b. So there is no coefficient that we can factor out, but we can factor out 1a and 1b. That's the smallest exponent is the exponent of 1. So we'll factor out ab, which gives us 10ab plus 9b. Okay, we still have 1b there. And then minus, the b is factored out, 1a is factored out, 1 is left. And that's the final answer. And number 6, 21 m to the 5th n to the 2nd power plus 6m to the 3rd power n plus 15m squared. So with the 6, 21, and 15, I can factor out a 3. I can also, they all have an m, and the lowest exponent is a 2, so I'll factor out m squared. 21 divided by 3 is 7. 5 minus the 2 on the exponents is m to the 3rd, and then I have that n squared that I was not able to factor out. 6 divided by 3 is 2, and we have 1 m left and 1 n left. And then plus 15 divided by 3 is 5, and we factored out m squared, so our work is done. So in set 2, we're going to factor a difference of squares. So first, step 1, make sure you have a difference and both of the terms are squares. Step 2, we'll follow the rule. A squared minus b squared equals a plus b, a minus b, b being the square root and a being the square root of the original terms. And if you were to FOIL this, if you were to FOIL that, you would get back to the original problem. So a squared minus 64 is going to be a plus or minus, and the square root of 64 is 8. Number 8, y squared minus 289. Well, it will be y plus or minus, and minus, not or minus. The square root of 289. 289 is 17 times 17. So there's your final answer there. Number 9, m squared plus 81. We've got a problem. It's not a difference of squares, so we're going to call that prime. Number 10, 1 minus 25n. Well, the square root of 1 is 1. And then the square root of 25 is 5, and the square root of n squared is n. So the second term will be 5n. Number 11, 16x squared minus 49y squared. So let's see, the square root of 16x squared is 4x. And the square root of 49 is 7, and the square root of y squared is y. So 4x plus 7y, 4x minus 7y. Difference of squares is kind of fun. So number 12, we have W4 minus 100. So the square root of W4 is W2, and the square root of 100 is 10. So then we have the W2 minus 10, and our work is done. Number 13, c squared minus 81d squared. Well, we have a difference of squares, so we'll start with c plus 9d, and then c minus 9d. And number 14, 196, a squared minus b squared. 196 is 14 times 14, so it would be 14a plus b and 14a minus b. So let's go on to the next page, and where we are going to factor trinomials. So, and in this next group, set 3, we do not have a greatest common factor to factor out first. So we're going to look for two numbers that add to b and multiply to c. Because these are of the form x squared plus bx plus c. And we also need to watch the signs in the middle. So we have x squared plus 7x plus 6. So something that adds to 7 and multiplies to 6 would be 6 and 1. 6 and 1 are 7. 6 times 1 is 6. So we can have x plus 6, x plus 1. And that's our final answer. Now we've got two negative signs in number 16, so let's be mindful of that. We're going to need a negative and a positive in our final answer. So two numbers that add to 17 and multiply to 38. So I can use 19 and 2, and if the 19 is negative and the 2 is positive, they will add to negative 17 and they will multiply to negative 38. So m minus 19, m plus 2, and our work is done there. Number 17, y squared minus 10y plus 16. So I'm going to need two negative numbers to give me this positive here and this negative here. And they have to add to 10 and multiply to 16. And 8 times 2 is 16. And it also adds to 10. So if I have a -8 and a -2, they will equal -10 and they will multiply to a positive 16. So that will be y minus 8 and y minus 2. Number 18, p squared plus 9p minus 36. So two numbers that add to 9 and multiply to 36. So I'm going to need a positive and a negative so that I get this negative here and this positive here. So the two numbers I can think of, if I take 12 times 3, and the 12 is positive and the 3 is negative. So let's make the 12 positive and the 3 negative. They will multiply to negative 36, and they will add up. 12 plus negative 3 is a positive 9. So that will be p plus 12 and p minus 3. Okay, number 19. We have c squared minus 12c minus 45. I need two numbers that add up to negative 12 and multiply to negative 45, which means I'm going to need a positive and a negative number. Or I'm sorry, a negative and a negative number, because two negatives will multiply. I'm sorry, I just said that backwards. Let me try again. I'm going to need a negative and a positive number, because a negative and a positive will multiply to this negative here. So something that multiplies to 45 and adds to 12. If I think of 15 and 3, and I make that larger number negative, negative 15 plus 3 equals negative 12, negative 15 multiplied by 3 will equal negative 45. So c minus 15, c plus 3. Number 20, w squared minus 16w plus 64. I need something that adds to 16 and multiplies to 64, and they're both going to be negative. And we're going to have a negative times a negative equal a positive. So if I took -8 and -8 and multiplied them, I would get a positive 64. If I add them together, I will get negative 16. So that would give me w minus 8 times w minus 8. And when we have the exact same thing like that, we write it w minus 8 squared. And that is the final answer. And number 21, a squared plus 13a minus 30. I'm looking for two numbers that add to 13 and multiply to negative 30. So I'm going to need a positive and a negative. And if I use 15 times 2 equals 30, and if I make the 2 negative, I have 15 minus 2, which will give us the 13. So that's a plus 15, a minus 2. And then number 22, x squared minus 27x minus 90. So I need to add to 27 and multiply to 90. And I'm going to need a positive and a negative. So if I did 30 times 3 and made the 30 negative and the 3 positive, that would multiply to my negative 90, and that would add up to negative 27. So x minus 30, x plus 3. And that's it for set 3. So let's go on to set 4. We're going to factor a greatest common factor first, then we're going to factor the remaining either difference of squares or trinomial. So number 23, 75r squared minus 48, we can factor out a 3 for 25r squared minus 16. And that is a difference of squares. So this is a square, and it's a difference. So 3, 5 r, and that would be plus and minus, because we're going to follow the formula, plus 4, 5r minus 4. And that is the final answer. So number 24, we can factor out a 5 and have 9x squared minus 1. And that is a difference of squares. So we will have 3x plus 1, 3x minus 1, because we're following that rule. Number 25, we also have, we have no coefficients, but we can factor out 1m and we can factor out an n. So let's factor out 1m and 1n, and let's see what we have. That would give us m squared minus n squared. Now we've got a difference of squares. So let's write our factored out mn. That would be m plus n, m minus n. Okay, so number 26, 6a to the third power minus 24ab squared. We're going to factor out the 6 and one of those a's, so 6a, which would leave us with a squared. And remember, if we have a placeholder here, we don't need to put a 1. So that's a squared minus 4b squared. And we have a difference of squares there as well. So we have 6a, a plus 2b, a minus 2b. Number 27. Now, I don't think we're going to have any difference of, well, we might for this number 28. Let's look at number 27. We have 3x plus 15x minus 72, 3x squared, that is. So we can factor out a 3 only, and then we have x squared plus 5x minus 24. And for this one, we're going to look for two numbers that add to 5 and multiply to 24. They'll be positive and negative to give us that negative 24. So if I look at 8 and 3, and I make the 3 negative, 8 times negative 3 is negative 24, and 8 minus 3 is a positive 5. So that would be 3 factored out, and then we have x plus 8, x minus 3. And that's our final answer. And number 28, we can factor out a 2 from 2m squared minus 4m plus 2. And that leaves us with m squared minus 2. And that's it, m squared minus, plus 1. We have our placeholder. Minus 2 plus 2m plus 1. So we still have the m squared minus 2m plus 1. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Now, we do not have a difference of squares, so we need two numbers that add to negative 2 and multiply to 1. And the only thing we can use to get to that positive 1 and add to negative 2 is negative 1 times negative 1 will give us a positive 1, and negative 1 plus a negative 1 will give us a negative 2. So we start with our factored out 2, and it would be m minus 1, m minus 1. Now, I hope you see what's going on here. We've repeated this binomial, so we can actually rewrite this 2m minus 1 squared. And that's our final answer there. And then finally, number 29, x to the third power plus 9x squared minus 52x. We can factor out an x. which leaves us with x squared plus 9x minus 52. Now, it's not a difference of squares, obviously, so we need two numbers that add to 9 and multiply to negative 52. So you know we're going to need a positive and a negative. I know that 52 divided by 13 is 4. So if I take 13 and 4 and make the 4 negative, 13 minus 4 is 9. 13 times negative 4 is negative 52. So x times the quantity of x plus 13 and the quantity of x minus 4 is a final answer. And then number 30, our last problem, 4y to the third plus 4y squared minus 120y. So we can factor out 4 and y. So that would leave us y squared plus y minus 30, because the y has been factored out. So we need two numbers that add to 1, because we have here an invisible 1. So two numbers that add to 1 and multiply to 30, and that would be 6 and 5 multiplied to negative 30. And the 6 would be positive and the 5 would be negative. So when we add them, it would equal 1. When we multiply them, it equals negative 30. So 4y, and it's y plus 6, y minus 5, and that's our final answer. So good work today. Let's go back to, I did put a little fun thing for you. Put some Bomano, and I put a word search. Maybe you could do it later today if you feel antsy and you need something to do. But let's go back to our exit ticket. Okay, GCF stands for greatest common factor. I'm going to rewrite it a little different color and a little neater. Made an easy exit ticket for you today. I want you to study tonight. FOIL stands for first. This is when you multiply two binomials together. Outer, inner, last. So good job today. I'm proud of how hard you're working. I hope it doesn't rain on your parade this as the weekend approaches. Make sure you study hard so that you can go into the weekend tomorrow really strong, knowing you did a great job. Because remember, with practice, you'll be great.